Welcome back to another episode of COVID Conversations. We hope these videos have been such a blessing into your life over the past few weeks. Today, we are talking to Pastors Richard and Helen Kobakian from LifeHouse Church in Melbourne. For those of you who've been with us on the Journey of Influence Church will remember Pastor Richard preached with us a few years ago for a special guest Sunday. We had an amazing day, and they've continued to be a great encouragement to us personally and into the life of church. And so we know that you're going to enjoy this interview for COVID Conversations. Okay, so we're back for another week of COVID Conversations, and our great friends, Pastors Richard and Helen Kobakian, are here all the way from Melbourne, Australia, LifeHouse Church. And, guys, we are so glad to see you, and thank you for joining us today. Do you want to, say hello, introduce yourselves a little bit?
Hi, guys.
Ladies first.
Great to see you from chilly Melbourne. We've got our winter going on. But we're doing well. We're surviving COVID. I think we're coming out the other side, and it's great to be with you.
Awesome.
And yes, we are coming through this, but I've got to say, you guys are looking great. COVID has been very kind to you.
Thank you.
Well, they look very relaxed.
Hey, you look relaxed. You got a little bit of a tan there.
Oh, maybe that's just
highlights in your head.
Yeah.
I'm talking about you, Ben. It's great to see you guys. Great to be with you.
Thank you. And we really appreciate you guys taking the time. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been putting out these videos just to connect with the friends from around the world, but obviously an opportunity to just speak faith into the life of the church and people watching as well, obviously, not just from Influence Church, but from all over the place. So you guys have physically been with us before, a couple of years ago. Richmond and Penrith had an amazing time. And so just glad to have you back here. Now, obviously, in terms of this whole Corona season, one of the uniting things about it has been that everybody's been facing it across the globe. And so the last couple of weeks in these videos, talk to people from Australia, America, South Africa, and everybody's dealing with it in different ways, but facing some of the challenges. How has it been for you guys, talking Melbourne and Australia? How's it been over the last few weeks, and what are you stepping into now?
Yeah, I think Helen should answer that because I think her response might shock you a little.
A controversial answer.
Well, I'll tell you why. She has enjoyed this COVID season way too much. I'm telling you, it's brought out the introvert in her, and she's like, "That's right, I'm an introvert," and she's just like, "This has just taken her back to square one. All that hard work
that you've done to train me to get out to go talk to." No, but Melbourne itself, we're just heading back into a bit of normal, actually. Okay. Our cafes have reopened with limited numbers. Before that, you could only do takeaway coffee. At no point did we go into complete lockdown. So we were preparing for that, but we weren't sort of, with doors taped or anything saying you can't leave. So you were allowed to leave for the supermarket or for your essential work. Mm-hmm. So for us, they're still saying that if you can work from home, you should. Yep. So that's probably the trickiest thing at the moment. The schools are all back. The supermarkets are all running. So life's pretty normal. For us, we're in the office a couple of days, but we still can't do church. And we're thinking it'll probably be end of July, and we can start meeting with maybe 150 people, multiple services that look like something. We'll find out what that is. Yeah.
Interesting times.
But the traffic's all back, the traffic jams, the school zones, the queues in the supermarket, that's all back. So
some of the things that we didn't miss from before.
Correct.
Wow. Russian school runs out. Amazing. So it is incredible that everyone in the world is kind of facing this in the same way. And
I know, it's crazy.
Like I hate it, but I know there's a lot of people even on our team that are like, actually, this is quite nice. Things have slowed down. Kind of learning new things and kind of having a new rhythm in life. Have you learned anything particular this season that's kind of helped you think, going forward?
I think, I'm probably, I'm more the extrovert guy and I like being out and about, but I probably didn't realize how out of control our lives were. Wow. Seriously, like we were out most nights of the week because our kids are much bigger now. So we sort of can. So being forced to stay at home, I think as pastors, it's really unique for us because there's always people that want to catch up with us, which is a lovely thing. It's nice. But not being able to and them understanding that we can't,
yeah,
I think was the game changer for us, because I mean we haven't experienced that for at least 18 years, to be honest. Because you can't, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but for us in Melbourne, you know, sitting around dinners together is a really big thing. Hospitality is a big thing in Melbourne, with especially the Europeans. And to just basically say, look, we're pastors and we're just going to stay home, it just doesn't fly very well in Melbourne.
No, sure.
Actually, we hear of pastors that are, you know, talked very badly about, to be quite honest, that they do behave that way. And we're like, what? What do you mean they don't want to catch up? But secretly, no, actually, I don't even think we thought about staying home, but this forced it upon us, but we didn't feel bad. Yeah. And I didn't miss a whole lot, to be quite honest. I think it was just great to have a reset.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's been, I know it sounds weird. I know people have lost jobs and all that negative stuff, but for us, it's actually been a great reset of slow down.
That's good.
Definitely.
That's good.
Yeah. I think the technology, learning, it really forced us as a group to adopt technology, things like Zoom and doing meetings in this sort of format that would have been really hard to convince our church to do, or to do life groups in this way. So we've really enjoyed, you know, you go to a meeting, you literally get on the computer, an hour later you're finished, you go back to your lounge. It's like, oh, wow, okay, that was really good. So I think what have we learned? That's one of the things is how quickly you can adapt to new technology and those sorts of stuff if you have to.
That's really true. Yeah,
very true. And we've loved seeing that here. People of all ages, on demographics, just kind of, that's the unifying thing. It's not like we're forcing you. Well, I guess we are if you want to connect, but you know, before there would have been a lot of resistance to the online stuff, and we were craving community. We want to be back and actually physically be able to give somebody a high five or a hug, but the opportunity to do it, I think, has probably pushed fast forward on some of the ways that we can operate as a church in the future. Not exclusively online, but we can use it to our benefit.
Yeah.
So
I remember in a Mexican restaurant in Germany with you guys.
Oh, yes.
Randomly. And talking about preaching on videos and just saying no one in England will connect with that. And now that's our normal, that people are listening and connecting with preaching online. So it has kind of accelerated things that we decided, you know, a long time ago that can't work. Well, it can work. And God's still doing things are still growing. But it's gone on for a long time, right? It's felt like it's a long time.
It has gone on.
It's just like when it first happened, I was so naive. And I was like, maybe 2 weeks, then we'll be back. And it's just, I was like, this is not going to go soon. I came to the slow realization that it's going to go for a while. So how do you kind of keep being fresh, and how would you say is a good way to kind of keep spiritually on fire? Because it's hard when it's going on for a long time, I think, sometimes.
I think I actually have found, because we've had time to just breathe, that it's been quite spiritually refreshing for myself. You know, that I don't have to rush out to a meeting, that I can, you know, get up and exercise and then read my word and pray without the pressing of rushing out the door. So scheduling the day to start a bit, you're still doing what you would do in the day, but you've got a bit more room in the mornings to do those things. And also being able to watch, you know, other, you know, documentaries on TV or things that we might not have time to normally watch. We watched some of the Jesus,
that
the
new
Game
series
Changer. So for me though, I've been doing my master's, so I did a subject in this little window. So the whole recluse thing was probably quite helpful in that way. I couldn't go anywhere, and then so staying spiritually fresh was just making sure I'm in the Word and looking after myself. What about you?
I think for me, guys, you know, you would know as pastors is you're constantly giving out, you're meeting people, you're giving out, and I think that does draw on your spiritual life. And we preach about that as pastors. If you're going to be high output, you need to be high input. Well, the reality is there was not much output going on. I didn't feel constantly drained. So to be quite honest, the little that I was doing, and what I mean by that is, you know, I was going for long walks and just listening to podcasts and so forth. I didn't do a lot of reading. I promised myself I would, but I didn't end up doing that. And but I still feel refreshed because I don't feel absolutely hammered. There's no other word but hammered by preaching message after message, and and all the other things that we would normally do. So not having to have a high output, I just feel like I'm ready to go. But I can't believe how much I sort of just relaxed on the inside. I felt like I was spinning on the inside.
Yeah.
And it just took a while for that to just unwind and just like, oh wow, is this what it feels like to not have another meeting coming up and another message that I have to prepare? And so that's been refreshing for me, to be honest.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good rest. And I would say for our church, the staying spiritually alive was very much about being connected. So the people who were connected in a small group, who were already, part of a life group, or who got themselves into that space where there was some connection with people, they've stayed really healthy spiritually. The ones who were just watching online but not really connected, they're the ones that we're now seeing are struggling, mental health-wise struggling, emotionally struggling. So, I would say for your church, stay connected, get into whatever small online things are happening so that you can stay encouraged by one another, even though it feels weird and awkward. Yeah,
I think it's been especially hard.
Go ahead, Rich.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think it's been especially hard for singles, to be honest,
yes.
because that's what they've expressed to me. If they were going to work, some of them work on their own, and then they come home and they're home alone, especially when you couldn't have anybody. I think they did it really tough, to be honest.
Right.
The mums, homeschool working mums.
Wow.
And single people, they're the heroes of this thing.
They are heroes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Helen, you spoke into this a little bit just then. You were talking about spiritual health, and I think that has been so key, and one of the things that we've been encouraging, the individuals in our church, of how they find their spiritual health, how they find their strength. And so I preached a message a couple of weeks ago where it says David found strength in the Lord. And how to find strength isn't just an accidental thing. You don't happen across somebody's left some health around, some strength. You go, oh, good. But it's actually a decision we've got to make, a choice of how to strengthen yourself in God. So you spoke into kind of finding community. What are the other ways that you would say help people to if they felt a weakness in their spiritual life in this time, how do they climb back up the ladder to find greater strength in God?
Yeah, well, I think finding someone you can partner with, to praying for one another. At the beginning of this, I sent out a lot of texts to people. Is there something specific I can pray for you for? That I sort of position myself in having active faith for others, and then following that up. So I started this whole prayer page, which was like COVID prayers for people, and then touching base, hey, how you going with the job? But I wasn't just praying, God, help my world. It was really interceding for specific people that I may not normally have the time to sort of chase down, chasing down other people's needs. So I found that really, really good. I'm not very good at the, play a worship song and I'll listen to it in the background, and probably I've missed that because I would usually have that in the car and I'll worship in the car, but to sit in my lounge room with that, I'm a bit like, oh, whereas he loves it. So, you've got to find make sure you're fueling the things that grow your spirit.
That's
and
good.
It's not going to be the same as everybody else, so finding for yourself. But Richard actually preached a great message on that, didn't you, Helen?
I actually did. I preached a message on the art of
segue, hey?
There you go. Yeah, thank you for that. It was called The Art of Encouraging Yourself.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought, well, these people are at home, and they don't have the luxury of coming to church and getting that pat on the back. I mean, they have the opportunity to watch online, but that's just not enough for some people, and it wasn't encouraging. And so I just pulled apart that story from David, and what he did. He basically encouraged himself, and that word is chazak, which is the same word that God told Joshua. He said, make sure you're strong and be courageous. And so just about praying, just speak it over yourself. And I sort of pulled apart the pastor parishioner thing.
Okay.
The clergy and laity. I just said, guys, I know that you're probably thinking that me praying for you is going to somehow do something extra special. But at the end of the day, God's going to listen to you, and you just need to be speaking positive words over yourself. And
fantastic.
If anything trying to, oppress you, just cast it away. And so it wasn't so much like get into your word type of message. It was a little bit more touchy-feely than that. It was like, come on, get off your couch and do something.
That's right.
I think there's so much pressure, isn't there? And it feels like sometimes even being a Christian and kind of growing in God feels like extra pressure. And I love that it's not actually like another job on a to-do list. It's just actually just feed yourself and just, just be sometimes. Job. I mean, you mentioned before about single people and also mums or dads that were homeschooling. Like, you've got kids that are a little bit older, a little bit more grown up. Have they all left home now?
No, we still got one home, Mark.
One more.
And he was home with us for the first month.
This one, he's still at home.
Doesn't look like that though. I've seen him on Instagram.
But he doesn't look like that anymore.
And we were at home, the three of us, for the first month, and then he was like, I got to go back to work somewhere. This is too close, me and my folks. So, but I think the toughest thing was the parents who had to work full time and homeschool. So somehow I was supposed to fit in educating their kids and still holding a job. They were the ones that I really saw became quite stressed and quite overwhelmed. And the other thing I saw about the homeschooling was it really challenged inadequacies. So if a parent had felt like they'd failed at school, or they weren't well educated, or that how am I going to do this? My child is going to suffer because I can't give them what they need. And I really encourage a lot of, particularly the mums, just enjoy the season. You're not going to probably get this again. We might, but just invest in your kids, the relationship you can build at this time, have some fun, enjoy learning with them. They're probably getting more attention from you than they've ever got from the classroom.
Right, that's true.
The teacher with one-on-one. So the 20 minutes or the 1 hour they're getting out of you, if it's that, is more than they would ever get in a full day at school. So just celebrate the opportunity to be together, get to know each other, and it's probably not going to be the make or break for Harvard, really.
No.
Very true.
They'll get there if they're that clever. You won't wreck it.
There was a good news, so there's been some good news out of all that. I think some parents to even think about homeschooling, whether you think homeschooling is good or bad, whatever, but for some of these parents, they had thought about it, but when do you ever pull the trigger on something like that? Like, it's a big deal to have a go.
Yeah, what if it's a disaster?
Yeah, what if it's a disaster? You pulled your kid out and all that. But this sort of gave everyone a little taste of it. And for some parents, it's like, I am never homeschooling. And that's great because they've locked that in. But for, we found one. But for one of our pastors, obviously his son had to come home, and they discovered that little bit of time with his wife, who she would have said she's no great teacher. But she helped him with his handwriting. Right. And when you see in 3 weeks what his handwriting used to look like and what it looks like today, they've now pulled the trigger and said, no, we're just going to homeschool.
That's great. Very good.
And the relationship between their son and the mother is just greater than what it has ever been. So I think it's great.
And I think parents have seen the learning styles of their kids. That's been the other feedback I've heard, is parents are seeing, is that how my child works? Is that they get distracted so easily, or they need clearer directions. And so I think parent-teacher interviews on the other side of this will be interesting.
Very interesting.
Sure.
And the teachers, sorry teachers, get ready.
But I love that there's so many wins. And so we often, as parents, we're focusing on how hard it is, but just to take a step back and think, actually there's wins in this, and there's moments that, I'm relearning maths and geography, and, I could definitely take the GCSEs and fly now, not reading exams. But there are wins, and there are moments that we're never going to get back again. 6 months, the kid's been home, that's not going to happen again, is it? So,
no.
Keep praying, guys. Keep praying.
So much about each other as well, like, not just like what you saying about the styles of teaching and how your child responds to that, but, marriages, I think there's been possibly tension, but hopefully strength built out of that tension, in how we operate, how we spend time with each other. Same for us with you guys, that we live together, we work together. So it wasn't that different, but for some people, it was the most time they'd spent together since they were married or since they'd had kids, whatever it was. And so, I'm sure that has brought some tensions in its times, but back on the other side of it, there's going to be so much strength found in that coming together, that unity.
100%.
How has it been? I'm not particularly saying for you personally, but I guess for you, in terms of marriage, could be you personally or people you've worked with through this series. I mean, you're still physically together right now, as far as we can tell. There's no. But what lessons either have you learned or have you helped people to learn to build health into marriage in this season?
Yeah, I think you're right. I would really feel for the couples that just don't have that type of relationship because of work or whatever it may be. Because once you get used to your own space, you'd be surprised how guarded you become over that area. But yeah, we work together. We're home a lot together as well. But there's no doubt about it. Even having said all that, this COVID thing really did, magnify. Wow, I really hope I like you. But we are blessed in Melbourne. You guys have been to our home, I think. Ben, I know you have.
No, not to your home. No.
Sorry.
I'm very sorry, mate.
We've been to church, we've been to coffee shops together.
Okay, well, you haven't been to my home. Okay, I'm a bit shocked by that because we do love our home. We drag anyone through this place as much as we can. But it's quite a large home. It's a 5-bedroom home, 2 living areas. So, and like you've just heard, our kids, most of them have gone. So we rejigged a few of the rooms and turned them into home offices. And you know what? We needed them.
Wow.
I tell you why, because apparently I'm a loud Zoomer.
He's really loud.
And apparently I yell.
I hear this.
Apparently I yell. So I was banished to the 5th bedroom with the sliding door closed. So what I'm saying is we've got the space.
Yeah.
And even we sort of found that like, hey, get out of my space a little. So yeah, I just can't imagine what it would have been like for couples who weren't used to it and didn't have the space. It would have been a little bit tough.
But we haven't heard really bad reports though. I was expecting maybe increased marriage counselling, like crazy calls coming. We've had a few, but not in our church, but as a society. But I think our church
gone crazy apparently. But,
coped quite well.
Yeah.
I think people, the conversation I probably had a lot was we're managing the tensions and we're having the conversations about the tensions. So I think it forced people to actually learn to communicate better. Whereas normally that one would have gone to work and it was done until the next day, but it forced people to have to attend to some of the things maybe that were underlying. So yeah.
What a unique time in history.
Absolutely.
I mean, like Helen said, this could happen again in 3 months' time with some new virus, or it may not happen in our lifetime.
Right.
We just don't know. But we got to experience this thing. I think it's almost a privilege, really.
Yeah.
When would you have ever imagined the whole world would shut down?
Yeah. So true.
You weren't missing a party anywhere in the world. Not a birthday.
That's
not
right.
one.
There was just no
all that fear of missing out. You couldn't. There was nobody else experiencing it.
And
stuff that we did miss out.
Instagram period ever. Like if you go back and look at people's photos, they're just so boring.
Yeah. They're just cakes.
Cakes, lots of beautiful walks.
There's no pictures of people beside the pool and just looking at their knees hanging over the edge. There was just none of that, and it was awesome. You didn't feel like you were missing out on anything. But
that's true.
We're coming out of it, guys. The sun is coming out, and it's almost over. But I think we've got to just keep lapping up what we've got left.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So just before we finish, do you want to just kind of share any thoughts that you've got and kind of just encourage us a little bit spiritually? I mean, what you've said already is just so powerful, and I love the positive spin on it. Like lots of people are just focusing on it'll be over soon it'll end, but just even just talking to you here, and actually there's gold to be found in this. Is so encouraging. So anything you want to share for the last 3 or 4 minutes?
We were talking earlier. What has this season been really, really good for? And I would say for us as a church, we've always been a church that loves to reach out to new people and constantly preaching the gospel. Very blessed to see hands go up every week. It's great. It's fantastic. But we have never seen the sharing of our church service like we have at the moment.
Wow.
And we've done that on purpose. And we've said to people, hey, listen, you're watching it. They're at home. And why don't you just get on Facebook and, log on, you know how it works, and then push that you want to share it and then turn it into a watch party.
Yeah.
And so now you've got all their friendship group that are watching this church service, and the comments they are getting, is this your church? This looks amazing. I didn't know you went to a church like this. And I would just really encourage, whoever is watching, whether you're from this church or another church, just get on, just share, because the messages are great, I'm sure. And I'm sure that they're relevant to people, and they're heartfelt, and they're bringing peace to people. And maybe we're struggling to get people into the building, but to simply have a look online, it's so comfortable.
Right.
It's not much of a risk for them to do that. And if they don't like what they hear, they can just press, X, and they're out of there.
Yep.
But they may love it.
Yeah.
And so I would just encourage people to do that. We've also been encouraging our people to just quickly get online and share a 30-second, 1 minute. Actually, we're trying to go for 1 minute testimony of how Jesus changed your life.
That's great.
And so no preaching, don't get too heavy. Just, what was your life like? What did Jesus do for you? What does your life look like now?
Mm-hmm.
And people are just getting on and just sharing. And so, because people are bored and they're scrolling, and all of a sudden they're watching their friend that they've known for 12 years, just sharing this really brief story. And so I would just encourage everybody to be reaching out, because people are asking the question, what's life all about? Our whole world got shut down. The economy turned around in a moment.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a great time in history to do that.
Absolutely.
True.
That's
so we are getting testimony after testimony from those people who have shared what their friends have responded. So we had one doctor, one of our guys shared with a doctor at the Royal Melbourne Hospital.
Yeah, correct.
And then he got back to the friend and said, oh, we're all talking about it. I've shared the link now with all my staff. Every Monday we all chat about the message we're hearing on Sunday. So connected to people that we would never, ever have probably reached. We've got employees, cousins, all sorts of people that are waiting. We've had lots of comments saying, I can't wait to come and see you guys live in the building.
That's great.
So it's been a great opportunity and a culture change for people to realize how easy it is to share what's going on in their church without actually having to bring people into the building.
Yes.
So creating that culture for the other side, I think, is really important. And you guys have still got some more lockdown by the sound of it.
Mm-hmm.
So not miss that opportunity. So to make the most of the time that's ahead of sharing it in that way, I think is really important.
And I think it's quite, it is bizarre, because we've been online for a while now on YouTube, where we've been recording our service and then putting it up online on Monday. But surprise, surprise, not many people are interested in sharing that, because they themselves didn't even watch it, because they were there live, watching. So it's not like they're just not invested in it. Whereas when they're sitting on their own couch thinking, this is great, I should send this to Sally or Bill or whoever. I just think it's just working for us right now, but hopefully it will continue in the future. But I think it's a great way for us as pastors to remind our people, hey guys, remember, let's keep the main thing, the main thing here.
That's good.
And it might not be polished, might not be as good as we would like it to be or whatever, but the message just is still important. And let's remind ourselves, even as we come back into the building, it's always has been, and it always will be, let's get people in a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's our encouragement to you guys. I hope it's encouraging.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And that's been, one of the things we've said right from the start of this was clearly never our plans. None of us, particularly as church leaders, would never go, well, let's just experiment for a while, close down church for 3 months, see what happens. But, when man's plans are cancelled, that does not mean ever that God's purposes are cancelled or paused or put on the back burner or anything. And we just sense that straight away, that God is doing something. And the health that he brings now, we believe won't just, when we go back to normal, whatever that might look like, that actually the new normal will be that God will have used this season to accelerate his purposes. That the people who've engaged with online, like you said, where people are sharing content, they're connecting, will just mean that the church globally, not just Influence Church, will be stronger on the other side, and we're excited for that.
And you just don't know who's watching, do you? That's the amazing thing. You don't know.
That's right.
So one of our pastors went to the garage next door to buy some milk or something the other day, and she said it was a bit like someone noticed her, like, hey, you're the one who was on the stage. How are you in here?
Yeah.
And so people in our town, I don't think she's got any connection to anyone in church yet, but are just watching, because you're right, people are bored and people are interested. They're like, what is that building?
That's so good.
Yes.
That's influence. That's influence, church guys. There it is, right there. Living up to your name. That's so good.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciated your time. It's the morning for us, but it's well into the evening and night time for you. So appreciate you gathering with us for COVID Conversations, and we hope to have you back physically at Influence Church one day. And we also hope to come back to Melbourne. Gail should have been by now, have been there, and even been to your home and whatever else.
That's just terrible that you haven't.
One day.
I've got dinner waiting, guys. Dinner is ready. I'll keep it fresh for when you get here, okay?
Yes, we appreciate
that goes for all of Influence Church, actually. If they're ever in Melbourne, we'd love them to come and pop in and say hello.
There you go. Formal invitation. Thank you.
Formal invitation into Melbourne.
So thank you guys, really appreciate your time, and if you've enjoyed the video, like Pastor Rich and Helen just said, share it, don't just like it, do comment, let us know what you thought, but you can share this, help other people, it'd be a resource of faith and life into them, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
God bless you guys.